And a good word to investigate is great, of course, and I will compare that to big, which are two different things. Which makes it extra interesting is that the word GROOT, which is almost like great, is a Dutch word which really refers to measurements, but measurements in size. And I will also compare that, also big to large, which are also a bit close to each other, not entirely the same thing, but I will also compare that one, so that you have an idea, why are these letters used? Where are we focusing upon? And can you recognize immediately what it is about? Yes, you can. And I have this method here on the right. There's a balanced out system of an almost automated system. It's automated because you immediately recognize 1, 2, or 3, or 1, 2, and 3 points, 1, 2, 3 directions, or even the last category of behaviors is also something like, it's as real as an object is. The directions are also as real as an object is, of course. So let's go and investigate the words. But I'll leave it as a blank space, so we only will express what we need. So I will not put the whole picture, what is our position in space, how we see into space, how we see time, how we see context. Now I'll build up from the start. And the start is, of course, I will focus with G onto the last category, and the last category is about framing. Actually, framing the context. The context is something general, it's on the background, so that line there is almost like the horizon, almost like we look into the sky, which is a comparison. It's not a rule, it's a comparison. We look into there, and we will look for a context that we will use here on Earth. And the G itself is that crossing the line from our perspective on Earth, let's say, with the measurements and so on, everything which we do, and it goes beyond us. So it goes to this context, to a larger context, and it will breach that spatial idea of where we are. That breaching of spatial idea is already something that can be associated already with great, but okay, not too far, we will not go too far ahead. In the background, the last category is also the 1, 2, 3 option. And what's the difference between a 1 option, 1, 2 option, or 1, 2, 3 option? A 1 option is focusing upon a fixed point. Of course, that's related with space. That's how we do that. The 1, 2 option is focusing upon time, because when we focus on time, of course, within space we have a fixed point in time, but to define time, to do things in time, anything that is directly related with time needs 1, 2 focuses, from here to there. And the 1, 2, 3 focuses, that's working in the background. It's like a comparison. You compare it until you understand its behavior, and this behavior can be put into a situation anytime, any place. That's almost like, it's the general rules in the background as well, because these words that are about the general rules will also fit to this last category for that reason. But we go to the G. G is, so you only have the first level, so it goes as a first level also from space, beyond it, because it goes beyond its normal measurements of space, beyond its normal measurements of time. It goes beyond it, and it goes to a bigger context. So it goes to the larger context, let's say. You can also compare it with measurements, of course. So you have everything from the first category is close and nearby. And the last category is actually quite far away. When time is involved, I have these two dark gray ones. It's like you go from my option to your option. You go the same way as you go from what you can from what you have now before you, which is in between two time frames, of course, and later. In timing, you need of course the starting point and then the later. What you're going to do, what you're going to change, whatever. The last option of the last category in the 1, 2, 3 is not timed anymore. Not in the sense that there is a certain time where you will reach a point where it will be there. No, can be anywhere. It's conditional. You just have to describe the conditions. No, it is related with time. It's already going beyond the placement or timing as a definition. It goes beyond it. It's defining a behavior which doesn't have a fixed place, doesn't have a fixed time, like the bird in the sky. It doesn't have a fixed place or fixed timing. No, but it's still a bird. So you go to the conditions, and it also describes it's only under certain conditions that we will try to figure out that our definition will be defined because the G is involved. That's our starting point. The R is a bit an open factor, which very much depends on what you have in the totality of the word. So you take a bit of distance from all the separate letters, but you connect all them. R is almost like a vibration. There's a vibration which connects all the things together in a livable thing. So as a movement, it's almost like the movement of what kind of life is in there and how it moves. Generally, to make it simple, we have it's on the second level of the last category, the R. So it is in two parts. You will usually find a rhythm. Rhythm you can't find in just one go. It's best for the expression to understand it. You have it in two goes. And why a bow? Because it's gradually connecting time and space. And everything which is there to make this happen, that will be connected. So here it is a bit abstract. So we always have to find out, how shall we do that? It's a guideline, actually, like how you go there. And in this case, it's just a helping tool. Let's not see it as a full reality description, but that will be the more or less idea of R. Why is it more or less? Because it depends, of course, it depends on which behavior do I need to make the connections more clear, and how I can also show you what kind of rhythm is in there. Of course, that's quite abstract. Last category is a description which is not fixed in time, not fixed in place, but it depends. It depends on circumstances. It depends on context. Here it also depends on the elements. Second degree is always about how the elements evolve, or how everything evolves, how all the things are forming themselves. So here we connect to what is forming themselves in time and space all the time. From one go and another go. So just for now, we describe it like that. After the R, there will be the E, or the E. Is involved. That's from the second category, there in the middle. It's about timing. It's in the middle, so timing will be important. We will time something via E. I time it to a different place, but it's further away. Of course, we already know it's in a general condition. Find out the conditions. It starts from G, and there will be then you have the R. We will go to that rhythm that we will try to find. It's not clear yet because we don't have the full word yet. It is we will time it. That we will do. And in this timing, we will find out what's the difference, what's the change, what is highlighting there, that we can define it with time. That's the way to associate it. So what's different, actually, also what changed. Also, that's right. So by connecting it to the context, what is really now, what is already changed. That's in grès. At this moment, we don't know it yet, the word isn't finished yet. Of course, the A, usually where we have it, the A is in the first category, so it's about a fixed point in space. Our first fixed point in space is actually an initiating moment where you say, let's find out where I will start my focus. So I find a starting point of focus, a center point of focus that is an application in space of something where I can focus upon in space. Where shall I find it? So where shall I find my focus, my central focus? In this case, if you have already gray, I have it goes from G to R to E, then to an A. A is a center point. The G will focus towards the full picture, to what you do not see. It's bigger than yourself, it's bigger, it goes towards the full context. So with the E, it will highlight also what comes out of it, running in a rhythm or whatever, to our center point of focus. So we can have that center point of focus either just there at the end of E, but because G is involved, getting bigger and bigger, making it bigger, let's for now take the full picture of the context as well. It's not necessary, but that's an interpretation, that it's anyhow the direction where it's going. The last letter, the T, usually is also a focus of a distinction in space. The kind of distinction where you say, hey, I see something different. This is clear, that's the one. T is the first letter which absolutely says, I see something clear. Here it is. Here it is, like in space. Here it is. And with these two helping tools, you usually find the T point quite easily. Here it is. It's also two, so the two lines here, horizontal and vertical. You see the point, and the point is always somewhere up where you will notice the something, the thing that you can define, something that makes a difference that you can define. It's not there because we're not talking about space, and we also have to have the order G, R, E, A. So you have to go up with the T. It doesn't. The space, of course, is not confined to the space before you, but that's where we always start from. If we focus upon space, it's about the space before us. That's what we have. If it's not before us, okay, then that space will be enlarged, will be bigger, will be moved. But then, of course, the element an extra element will have to come in, like time. So it's everything which is beyond our direct local space needs time. If it's really far beyond what is within reach, and it's not within reach immediately or not immediately there, but only under certain conditions, for instance, like here, then we have to cross that border as well, and we have to go to the 1, 2, 3, to the third point there, to the position. Now, also the T will move to the position. With E and A, it moves also in time, and it moves in time until we find it. Here, there is the position. What is the most clear? What do we see as most clear with E, A? That there we put the point. It's not fixed where you have to have the point, but the order of letters is important. The interpretation can move it somewhat, depending on your interpretation and depending on the emphasis, but it's going towards that direction. So let's resume it a little bit. What do we have already? The letters. The G is, it goes to what is bigger or beyond our normal space and goes towards a bigger context. So if we have at the end a spatially measured point as a conclusion, it is also should go to a bigger context, of course, where that point is found. So it receives a bigger context. With R, we simply connect to it. We see actually what is forming itself the whole time in a certain behavior, and we connect to it. We see all the connections, how it connects itself within that context, more and more and more. With A, we go towards it and go towards the changed condition. With A, we focus upon that thing. With T, we emphasize what we distinct there, its distinction, how it is different. Usually, because T and A are the last letters, we could also associate it very easily, or even confuse it, that this is all about a spatial distinction, which with A and T alone, and with as a result alone of these two letters, the last two letters, it is true. It is a spatial distinction, but the letters that come before it and that actually make it happen, make the thing happen, that we come to that spatial reference, which is in that way until there not so very different from what has a certain enlargement. That's true in a kind of spatial way, but this enlargement has a few letters before that, and this is related with context. So it is within a certain context. It's sizing up, it sizes the things up, it enlarges, that's true, but it enlarges after it has been prepared and started first with these context-based measurements, driven by certain differences and changed conditions especially. And it's actually in that way a comparison that within a certain context, what I focus upon has been enlarged. In that way, different than big, and in that way it's not about measurements in space, but it's a good expression. You have in the end an expression where you see the things has been grown. I will show it a bit better with a little bit different differences in the end as a last comparison, but you'll have already an idea that you see a certain enlargement slowly unfolding, and you go towards it. I will make it more clear in the end. But there is a difference with the word big, for instance. Big starts in space, so it starts into a focus with physical measurements, because that's what we're looking at in space. You have a direct reference within the frame of space. That's when it starts with B. It's more or less there, the point where our focus will go to. After that, E will be included, and then the G. E is, okay, let's focus let's narrow it down to the place where only that thing is noticed, where the B is noticed, only there, and it's almost like an exception of what we see. And then with the G, which should be about, okay, also an enlargement. Big as a word, it notices, because it's going from spatial references, notices, and it starts with physical measurements. That's absolutely true in this case. It's not about a comparison what I think things are, or how I compare it within a certain context, that some things are enlarged in my vision. No, here it is about measurements themselves that enlarge themselves, and they are lifted out as a focus of, because of the E, that I see something which is different. And with G, it will emphasize and will conclude it that there is an expansion of the spatial mode, of course. And even though G looks for a context, what is with a certain context, it starts to be engaged in this case from measurements. B and the exception in measurement and G. I can make that more clear as well, because the B is the enlargement of the surface of material, and here what do I focus on it in extra? Not just the enlargement from space, from the physical realm, from the second degree of a physical formation process, something which is enlarged, but with E, especially just the part that has been enlarged, and with G, which has a reference to what is even bigger than what is beyond your vision. And when I emphasize the physicality here, you see it also that the E will especially focus mostly on what is different there, what is even enlarging beyond my usual space, and that's the big, much more easy word, of course, big. Let's compare, before we end, great with groot. It's almost written completely the same. Great means actually, it is like almost like you have it's a sensation actually, a bit. It doesn't say it in letters that it's about a sensation. It's more about a kind of judgment, let's say. Groot, on the other hand, is about measurements. It's only about measurements. Great has a context. Groot doesn't have that context of comparison, that you have it somewhere after a certain time. No, there's something else going on. It's only about measurements. And how does that come? Because that's a bit strange that just a few vocals are different and still you have a completely different significance. Both of them are about an enlargement, but they are associated differently. Great, I have here great, so I have my focus. I find a little bit a rhythm of how I see it. And how I see it is, of course, I see that from a distance, in a general sense, and I see that almost like in categories, with the E and the A, it evolves towards a certain point of conditions, and when I reach these conditions, I find I have that point which is emphasized by enlargement via G and R. Groot, which is more or less like big, but a little bit more like large, is different. Here, great actually is much more about a kind of uplifted judgment about what's going on there within a certain context. The measurements of A at the end exceeds its spatial limits via the starting point of G, with its measurements of focus, still needs that connection towards context via R, while forming itself in these measurements. But it also has this extra element of timing. So timing makes it actually conditional. So it's not now, but it's maybe it's there later, and I focus upon what is there when it's later. So A goes towards future, and I have it there in future. So it is, with a combination of words, that it is pretty much emphasizing that these conditions at a certain point in time. Strangely enough, if you look into my system, O is also about timing, but we have to see the timing different with E. E is a condition in timing at the end, where the things are changing, when it is changing. If it's not reached, we first have to have the conditions and then it's reached. O is not about reaching a condition, but it is any position in timing is O. It's a moment. You can have it. Usually you're still planning the things. There are conditions, we're planning them, and we have them, and we go towards them from moment to moment. So already it's different in condition. It's still a comparison, but it's a comparison where you do not need to reach a condition. All the conditions can be different. O is also related to timing in that case, but let's put it into an image that will be more easy. With the G, you have also an evolution from where you start in space, your space. Where you start in space can also be translated as a focus in O. So where you say, okay, let's make a change somewhere, but we start from change. With G, it surpasses the normal space and goes towards a bigger space, and this bigger space is the context, of course. So it goes towards a bigger context, or to a comparison of something which is bigger with G, or which it has a bigger context, and so on. It's that part in the beginning with the first O is where you are and what you immediately know. G surpasses everything which you know, the space that you know, and it goes towards A, yes, bigger space. That's the first thing you do. With O, it goes towards beyond your normal space. That's what with O, which will always do, also do, and goes towards that where you can actually also have the full conditions in a way as well. And we know already G and R is an enlargement, but the way of how we connect to that enlargement is by comparison of a thing in one moment and at another moment. See, so when is something big or when is something enlarged is only seen by comparison. And we have this comparison from moment to moment. And that's why the O plus O is a quite nice fit to that description. With A and A, on the other hand, we know it also became bigger with G and R as we have it, and we connect to the thing that has become bigger, or the space. We are also almost towards the space that has become bigger, but the comparison goes via A towards the highlight what made these conditions, and we with A after that we focus into that part that is different and that shows those differences as an enlargement after a while, as conditions. You see in which way you have to think. So here we focus upon that point. I took almost each time the same point of T as A, because it's still my point where I see the difference. In that point that I have a distinction, it's T and A at the same time, but we can focus in it even more, go towards it with a bit more effect, doesn't matter. But what we really have is when the enlargement of this focus is done, with GR I have to do that, it becomes more and more clear how this great, like this focus, enlarges itself by just saying it and making the A enlarge itself also beyond its own space. That's the effect that we are looking at. The sensation is not, there's not described a real sensation in the word. We do not have the letter S, for instance, which would help at that point. But it shows the focus that, oh yeah, going bigger, 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 bigger. That's great. Great on its own is that way even more neutral as we might even suspect that it could be. Something great, if you just say great, it doesn't even sound so great if you just say it so neutrally. But okay, besides that, it's not there, that sensation, but it's there, that focus. So big we already have. So what's the difference now with large? Big we already know. It's almost proven that it is about a physical appearance. It is going towards that enlargement in a physical orientation. Large is the comparable to that Dutch word groot. Starts from L. Where do we find L? Also in that physical space, about the things that are forming themselves. 2 points just a bit away from the center. So if you express that, a formation that just need 2 points to be sure that we have it, is usually a form going from the center towards the 2 points, is easily expressed as this form. So we have here the L. That's why we start from with the focus upon large. When we add the letter A, how do we do that? We have we centralize our main focus upon the center that we already have. The la focuses then with the letter A upon what we already have, the letter L. So we make a center there where the 2 points are, of course, so that they are centered. And that's the way how we make la. With the R to it, we have to find a rhythm in how does the things form themselves there in 2 goes in that rhythm. We don't know that yet. At that point, the R is always, we can only judge it a bit better when we have the full word, but okay, we're engaged already a movement into 2 parts. It goes towards the G, so even in these 2 parts we already have that sense, okay, from here something is forming, but the G says, okay, but it has to go beyond its space towards something which goes beyond its space, beyond its timing also. It's enlarging, yes, already. With the E to it, we know that time is involved, so that also emphasizes that we're going towards that point where that change will also be visible, will become a highlight. And of course that will be there on the end of the G, so also there it will be visible, of course. But now the reality of it, so we because we didn't adapt the initial form has to follow the rules of not just la, but also of large. So not the R. We do not know what we're going to do there, but let's go to enlarge. And of course that will also be following the rules that it will become a bigger size, something bigger, an enlargement or bigger. You also have this even more profound. If you really want to express the full bigger size, of course you have to take what we already have and adapt it to what we are going to have to do. So we're going to make it bigger, of course, and here it is. Here's the large. Actually, as simple as that. I hope you enjoy this one. There's some webpage there, if you like, with some previous videos, a list of that alphabetically. There's some on the YouTube channel. You can go back in time, see all these videos. You can prepare yourself maybe better and get used to the whole system gradually via these books. And a Facebook page you have as well, and you can contact me anytime. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for watching. Bye.